swearing in of President Tinubu on May the 29th. I mean, to give this a bit of historical context, you were emphatic and clear and almost urgent in your call for Mr. Tinubu not to be sworn in. What were your fears and concerns? Because he's obviously been sworn in and the world hasn't come to an end, has it?
Nigeria may come to an end if the world doesn't come to an end. But very valid question. I feared for Tinubu himself, for himself, from himself. I feared for the reputation of Nigeria. You see, the international profile of global leaders has risen astronomically, to the extent that royals even discipline their own. Look at the profiles of gentlemen like Xi Jinping of China, all across the world. All of a sudden, we were faced with the dilemma of having to present to the world who our own president to be was. And I was one of those who knew that the answers were not good. The whole country would be put to shame. The last time I spoke, I nearly brought Tinubu's ambition to a screeching halt. This is evident by the events that followed immediately afterwards. One minister wrote the DSS on his company stationery. I don't know how that is possible. And another minister, skipped ECOWAS, skipped AU, and went all the way to Washington to report me. And Nobel laureate, a very, very senior citizen, inviting me to a national debate. And I'm not that smart enough, even though my dear good friend Chimamanda acted on my behalf. And then DSS coming out a week later, under duress, of course, you could see, to do the bidding of that minister. This shows they were scared. My simple point was that no constitution or any part thereof shall be breached in order to install a president. And if that is done, that presidency will remain unconstitutional. And I remain on this point. I pointedly say he must not be sworn in. They have gone ahead to do it. It is not the first time. Out of 16 heads of state stroke presidents of Nigeria, 9 were not elected. 7 were, out of that 7, 1 still remains challenged, Alhaji Tinubu. Challenged. And that is because of the constitutional breach. Now, my attitude from day one was that, based on experiences, let's forget anything electoral. I know the system deeply. My boss, Obi, knows the system deeply. Let's go for the constitutional point. Yes, of course, there is that issue of the forfeiture. There is the forgery. But the clearest one we could get was on the FCT point. Now, get that FCT point, get him not sworn in. There are at least 2 other constitutional channels while sustaining democracy that we could have followed, but they wouldn't.
Right. Well, in that regard, it must have been another aftershock for you then, because both the Election Petitions Tribunal and the Supreme Court have affirmed President Tinubu's victory. I wonder to what extent that has left you personally, politically shaken and unsure of the ground.
Point of correction. Point of correction. And this is where I respectfully differ, and it is within my fundamental human rights and constitutional rights to differ. The petition court and the Supreme Court, please quote me on this, did not actually affirm the success of Tinubu's presidency. They upheld the unconstitutionality of that election, and they are happy for it to remain so, and they have the power. Nobody can do anything about it. That is why we said it is an unreasonable show of force. If there was something we could do, we would stop it. But we are law-abiding citizens. That is why I'm here sitting with you today and still complaining. I was not shaken one bit. I will never be shaken by certificate forgery, by forfeited money over narcotics. I will never be shaken by IREV switched off in the middle of the game when they saw us winning. Labour Party won 2023 presidential elections. No doubt about it. They are cheats, they are bullies, and they have taken full advantage of the situation in Nigeria. When you ask me what is the situation in Nigeria, I will go ahead and tell you some fundamental things that say why we are in this situation today. Right. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, but let me ask you this, though, yes. Because you're making the point, the points you're making, obviously, as you said, it's your right to air your sort of yes. assessment, but we are now unquestionably in the Tinubu era, and he's clearly made some bold moves since he was sworn in on May the 29th. What do you think his presidency has delivered so far?
Disaster. There is nothing bold or special about making appointments. Anybody can make appointments. Any right-thinking businessman, any public servant can make appointments. There is nothing. People jump over you, pay money, buy appointments. Most of the appointments you see are...
Well, that's an allegation we can't substantiate, of course.
Anyway, what I'm saying, there is nothing about making appointments. You should be talking about the Naira has fallen down to 1,250. You should be speaking about 26 Nigerian soldiers that were killed in neighboring Niger State. Something that has never happened in all Nigerian military missions throughout Africa. Nigerian military are dreaded because they are good, they are professional, yet in our backyard they kill our soldiers under Tinubu. What is bold in having your soldiers being killed? To rub it in, they followed with killing another 8 soldiers. To rub it in, villages, almost on daily basis, that is the news, everywhere in Nigeria. This man has delivered nothing and is poised to deliver nothing. Well, they have not moved an inch Nigeria from consumption and waste to production, and they will not do it. They will not stop the killings and start the healing. Well, they will not stop the stealing and start the keeping. And right. They will not stop slide of Nigeria, and they cannot start the climb.
Well, I mean, the international community, certainly some in the international community, would beg to differ with your assessment, because I wonder what your reaction is to the latest Fitch international ratings agency, which is hugely respected across the world, and that is the front page of this day newspaper today. Fitch has rated Nigeria's credit worthiness as stable. It's given it a B-. I mean, surely that suggests that international confidence, and it did actually say that, in the Tinubu government is growing. Well, can I just make the point? Even though, in fairness to some of the points that you're making, according to Fitch, that rating is constrained by what they described as weak governance, low non-oil revenue, security challenges, which you talked about, high inflation, low forex reserves, and weakness in the exchange rate framework. Nevertheless, for somebody who just started in office about 5-6 months ago, to have that kind of rating from...
I have a lot to say.
Yeah, go ahead. To have that kind of rating is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Charles, it would have been more productive if you listen to Nigerians on the streets. More productive if you go into the villages and find out from those whose families are abducted. Find out from average Nigerian worker when they go to buy foodstuff in the market. Not Fitch. Fitch don't know you. They don't know Nigerians. They don't know. Look, I live on statistics. I eat, I sleep statistics. So does Obi. We create statistics.
Yeah, but Fitch are the people who give...
Are you forgetting...
Who impress the international community to bring their investment into this country?
Are you forgetting the likes of Fitch and those rating agencies are those who were largely responsible for the 2008-9 financial crisis, But look, let's not go into those lines. Let's come back to Nigeria. All I'm telling you, you're looking the wrong way. If you want to know what's happening in Nigeria, come to us in Nigeria and don't read those statistics because they are misleading. They always speak about growth. It's not growth actually that matters, those figures that give you, because there is nothing as misleading as far as welfare is concerned as growth. The stethoscope you use in measuring the heartbeat of an elephant, for example, China, cannot be the same one you use to measure the heartbeat of a rat. Smaller countries, I won't call any country a rat. Do you understand? Leave that aside. Let's come back to Nigeria and speak about what is happening in our streets, in our villages, in our markets. These people have not done any bold step. The only bold thing they did was to shut down IREF. The only bold thing they did was to misapply force on the weak Nigerian institutions that we have. Now, ask this question. For someone that has been playing God, in quotes, for such a long time like Alhaji Tinubu, and it is time for a mortal, like maybe Obi, or somebody to put him in his right place. For someone who has wielded so much power in a country like Nigeria, where is that power in the last 6 months for them to apply in our welfare and our security? They cannot do it. They are in power for themselves, for their ego, for their wealth, for their comfort, for their own considerations, not for Nigeria.